What's going on, everybody? This is your boy Afflicted Venom here, and today I want to talk about the decline of Xbox. And now, before we talk about the Xbox Series S and X, I want to talk about the Xbox One briefly, because I think that's where I've seen, or maybe other people have seen, the slow decline of the brand itself. So, as we all know, if we look back on the E3 coverage of the Xbox One, it just seems like Xbox One was touted just for like TV and media stuff. You know? Like, I think there's a compilation out there where they just spouted stuff about TV and media and how you can use the Kinect to say, hey, Xbox, switch to this channel. Even though you could just use a remote and switch the channels yourself. You know what I mean? And also, there was the whole debacle, the whole drama about used games, whether you can use the same disc or not, or you can let someone else borrow a disc or not. That also kind of rubbed people the wrong way. So hold on, I couldn't use a game that I'm borrowing from a friend? What? Okay. And also the Kinect. Yes, we have to talk about the Kinect because I mentioned it a little bit ago, where at first it seemed like the Kinect was forcefully bundled into the Xbox One, where you can't just get the Xbox One itself. Oh no, you have to get the Kinect with the Xbox One, which pretty much jumped it from $400 to $500, even though its competitor, the PS4, was getting sold for $400, and it seemed like the PS4 E3 coverage covered, let's wait for it, the games themselves. And they weren't going for these, at the time, niches. And let's not forget, the other big gripe that people had with the Xbox One at first is that the system had to be online always. And now, granted, yes, internet connection, it's getting better. You know, it's better nowadays, but back then, it's not as good as it is today. Like, what if people had bad internet connection? It's like, hold on. So if I had a bad internet connection, I can't download my games even though they're on a physical disc? Now, mind you, yes, they did some updates to where you can use like the same disc. It doesn't have to be online. The Xbox One doesn't have to be online for you to connect. And you don't need to buy the Xbox One with the Kinect. Even though the software updates, guess what? You have to be online just to have those updates. So I think that experience alone kind of tainted Microsoft. It tainted Xbox itself. And let me talk about my personal history with Xbox One. Now, mind you, I didn't want to get the Xbox One. I wanted to get the PS4 first, but I decided, you know what? My friends have an Xbox One. I might as well get an Xbox One. A few years down the road, I got a PS4. And let me tell you guys something. I knew the PS4 won. It won that generation. Yes, you can... Technically, you have to include Nintendo Wii, Wii U... Well, not Wii U. Nintendo Switch. But I think mainly people looked at PS4 and Xbox One. Microsoft and Sony, mainly. So, yeah, I just knew that the PS4 won. Like, they had more exclusives, which the Xbox One didn't. And it just seemed like the PS4 was just better. It had that aura. That's what kids like to describe it now. Aura. That console had aura, bro. So now, let's talk about the Xbox Series S and X. I'm going to tell you guys right now, I don't have these systems. I have no desire to get these systems. I'm not going to describe the differences between the Xbox Series S and X because, you know, I think that's really necessary. But it seems like to me, it just has way less exclusives, and they're more just like this live service thing with Game Pass, and they're trying to go beyond the console. You know, they're trying to have apps for your phone and stuff. They're trying to do the Xbox app, that you can access through your PC. That's great and all. I understand why Microsoft is doing that, but it seems like their console sales aren't where they're supposed to be. I feel like they're focusing less on having exclusives for the console itself, and they're trying to do more just live service thing. Like they're trying to branch away from the consoles, just like I said. And it seems like the console sales are low compared to PS5. And now I get it, there may be like supply shortages and raw material shortages, but even then, when they do have them, it seems that they're less. The console sales are way less. When it comes to US, Europe, and globally, it just seems like Xbox is just struggling getting their sales. And yes, gamers seem to be less interested in Xbox itself, and I don't blame them. I just don't blame them at all. Microsoft itself is just more focused on Game Pass, and again, this live service thing. So let's talk about what Xbox has done. Microsoft/Xbox has done. So they've acquired some studios: Activision, Blizzard, Bethesda, and Obsidian. Which you think, okay, they're going to get some exclusives from them. This would boost Game Pass, and it could be used like a platform strategy with the console itself, cloud, and PC gaming. However, there have been some side effects, which would be the layoffs that happened inside the acquired studios that are under the Xbox. And Perfect Dark. Perfect Dark was canceled because they laid off people. So yeah, if you were looking forward to Perfect Dark, then you're kind of shit out of luck because it's not gonna happen. So yeah, that does suck. There were a few breakout exclusives, but which Xbox does not need right now. I feel like Xbox needs exclusives. And the exclusives to me right now that are tied or shared between Xbox and PC, that doesn't really count because, if that is the case, if I am a consumer and I'm emphasizing over and over again about exclusives, it's like, why would I spend the money on Xbox getting the Xbox exclusive, or Xbox console, I should say, even though the Xbox has less exclusives, but there's the PC, which has way more games for that system, and I can get that quote-unquote exclusive, then why bother getting an Xbox? Why bother getting an Xbox Series S and X? Another example, Indiana Jones, right? That was a timed exclusive for the Xbox. And then eventually it went to the PS5, and also, yes, it went to the PC as well. Again, if I am a consumer, if I want to get Indiana Jones and the Great Dial or whatever it's called, why would I again get the Xbox Series S or X? Doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense to me at all. And I'm going to mention Game Pass again. They can't just solely rely on Game Pass. Yes, it's doing well, but I don't think it should be the main marketing strategy. And it seems like it pivoted more towards like cloud-based services, going beyond the console instead of just selling their consoles. And it just doesn't. I think gamers have just lost, faith in Microsoft. And there's other YouTubers that have talked about this. Actman and many others have just talked about the decline of this brand. So now let's talk about 2027. Now there were speculations, rumors that Xbox would leave the console scene, right? They would leave the console scene because they're not meeting the numbers. However, that seems to be false. So let me look through my notes right now. So yes, there were talks about Xbox leaving the game console scene. if it doesn't meet the sales number. However, Phil Spencer said he doesn't believe subscriber count for Game Pass won't hit low projection numbers, and he believes that it would go beyond those projections, and he believes that there's going to be growth in 2026 and 2027 in pure confidence. So I don't think Phil Spencer just give up on the Xbox. I don't think so. I think he's trying to stay face and everything just so that, Microsoft is happy, shareholders are happy. He just wants to project that pure confidence. And let's just see what happens. Anything can happen, like hell. I'm just going to say that maybe, just maybe, the new Xbox that's going to come out, and I'm just going to assume 2026 and 2027, just like the next PlayStation, maybe Microsoft can go back to the drawing board and say, hey, you know what? We can still do the live service thing, but we really got to dial in on console sales and exclusives, and let's see if we can win gamers back. You know what I mean? And I would love for them to do that because, that would create more competition in the gaming scene, the console scene. Let's just say if Xbox did leave, the console making department. Let's say, you know what, Microsoft can come out and say, you know what, we're done making consoles. We're going towards live service. We're going to go through apps. And we're going to do Game Pass. We're going to be kind of like the Netflix of games. We're going to do that. Now, wouldn't that increase the prices of Nintendo and Sony? Like Nintendo and Sony consoles? Now, mind you, I think Sony's just better, in my opinion. I feel like Nintendo itself is just for party games, and it seems like Nintendo is not having the best face with gamers. Look at the cost of Nintendo Switch, the new Nintendo Switch 2, which I think that can be a video of in itself. I know Sony isn't totally innocent either. They had issues with scalpers and region locking for certain games and stuff. So I'm not saying that those companies are innocent either. Now, I guess for my personal thoughts, even though I've already given my personal thoughts, what happened to Xbox, bro? Back in the day, in the 2000s, Xbox, respectable. You know what I mean? I've never owned the original Xbox. I did play it a little bit, and then I got the 360. And I thought the 360 was great. I felt that Microsoft did a really good job with Xbox Live. It was more secure than PSN. They have more exclusives, right? I'm going to stress the exclusives part again. And I know that there could be a compilation made or a drinking game of me saying exclusives. However, they're one of the main things that draw people to your product. And hopefully one day, Microsoft can, yes, they should be able to do live service thing, but they also need to dial in to the console scene itself. They gotta find a way to draw people back in. It seems like Xbox is kind of dwindling. I'm gonna say this. I shouldn't say again because I've never made this, but I'm gonna make it now. If you still like Xbox, if you still like Microsoft, if you like the exclusives that they have, that's fine. I'm not dissing you. It's your money. You can spend it on whatever you want. You can buy an Xbox Series S and X or a PS5 or a Nintendo Switch 2. That's fine. But I need to express what is going on because it isn't where it was a decade or so ago. If you guys like this video, comment, subscribe, like, share, etc. You're more than free to do so. If you want to disagree with me, that's fine. If you want to agree with me, that's fine. If you want to say that Xbox is better or PS5 is better, fine. So, anyways, I'm going to see you guys later. Peace out.